Michelle, Fremont Union School District.
Graham Clark, Superintendent, Fremont Union District.
Jonathan Weinberg, Mayor of Los Altos.
Gabe England, City Manager, Los Altos.
Michael Taylor, Traffic Sergeant, South Spark.
Katie Kraus, Captain, Los Altos Beach.
Son Los Altos, capital. All right, William, CSC, Commissions Commission, Staff Liaison for Los Altos. Chris Lamb, Deputy Director of Infrastructure for County Roads and Airports.
Hassan Basma, Transportation Engineering Manager, BTA.
Sandy Madline, Cupertino Union School District.
Naomi Hakamoto, trustee with the Fremont Union High School District Board.
Stanley Cole, Fremont Union High School District.
Mr. Flagler, Los Altos Council member. Okay, welcome everyone. So if it's okay with everyone, we'll go through the meeting as we have in the past and then do public comment at the end. Is that what we're doing? Okay, good. So let's go with the agenda review. Anything, anybody want to add anything or make any comments about the agenda? Okay, then discussion topic. Update on the Homestead Safe Routes to School project.
Just waiting for them to connect to.
Okay.
We put the water box instead of easier. Excuse me. Not the big box. Is that better? Yeah. Is that good?
Please say what.
Okay, good afternoon. Again, my name is Hassan Basma from BTA. I'm here. Thank you for inviting us to make a presentation on the Homestead Road Safe Route to School project. So let me start by I have a small team here. Lauren Ledbetter is a VTA Senior Transportation Planner. And then we have our designers who are from Dinscope, Zila Shafi and Nabila Hazara. Okay, what I want to talk about, agenda is here, is just the purpose of the presentation, project background and overview, kind of give you the project goals and what the design considerations are, the scope, and tell you something about some project cost and schedule and, well, not upcoming. We've done some outreach meetings and you'll see the ones that we've done. And I must say, some of you here have seen this presentation before, so sorry about that. Again, the purpose of the presentation is just to update you guys on the project itself. What's the project background? So back in November of 2016, the voters of Santa Clara County voted and approved a Measure B, which was a 30-year half-cent sales tax measure to support transportation projects. And this included local streets, bicycles, and pedestrian programs. So in 2018, the County Board of Supervisors, Josie Median, championed this project. And in 2019, the County of Santa Clara Roads and Airports completed the study project. In 2023, the 2016 Measure B we talked about were secured and the project was awarded to Dinscope. Now you might ask, well, why is VTA doing this? Because the roads and airports, Santa Clara Roads and Airports did the final study. This is because VTA does a lot of this kind of project. They do design and construction projects. And we also were responsible for acquiring the Measure B funds. So we applied and got the Measure B funds. We also do big projects. So that's why VTA took on, we decided that VTA should go ahead and do this project, take it to construction. So as I mentioned, the Santa Clara County did the final study, and during that study, they did two community meetings. Two community meetings were held with extensive public outreach. And the first one was in November 2018, and the second one was in February 2019. The collaboration was between cities of Sunnyvale, City of Cupertino, City of Los Altos, Caltrans, the County of Santa Clara, VTA, the school districts, parents, and students and staff. What you see here is a project area map. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. It just shows you the limit of the project itself. And so it starts from Grants Road and then goes all the way to Hollenbeck. And along the corridor, you'll notice there are three schools there, which is the West Valley Elementary School, the Homestead High School, and the middle school itself, Cupertino Middle School. And the project goes over State Route 85 and Stevens Creek Bridge. What are the project goals? So what we want to do is really to implement a bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure improvement for safe route to school. We want to make it safe and efficient. We want to support safe and efficient modes of transportation, such as biking, walking, driving, and riding public transit. And as I mentioned earlier also, this is to connect the students within the three schools that I mentioned. Design considerations. So what are the scope of work that we are looking at? We want to install new sidewalks to close the gaps. If you go out there, you'll notice there are gaps within sidewalks. So we want to make it all one connecting sidewalk. We also want to widen some of the sidewalks and share use paths wherever we can, and convert some bike lanes to buffered or protected also wherever we can. We also want to tighten some corner curb radar and make it look like a complete street, install new ADA curb ramps, and improve traffic signals. We also want to upgrade to high visibility crosswalks and eliminate a couple of free right turn lanes. What's so what we've done here is we did some renderings. It's a cross-section rendering. So for our design, we take a cross-section of a certain part of the project itself, and we do a rendering so that you can understand what we're doing. So here, what we're looking at is we are on Grant Road looking east, and that's between Chris Drive and Homestead Road. You'll notice on the left side, we're widening the sidewalk and installing bike lanes with buffer. And then on the right side, we're installing protected bike lane. The next one is Fallen Leaf Lane. We're looking east. And again, we are installing protected bike lanes on both sides of the roadway. We're also widening the shared use path. And this is again between Belleville Way and Fallen Leaf Lane. The next one is on State Route 85 Bridge looking east. It's between Bernardo Avenue and Maxine Avenue. So on the left side and on the right side also at the top, you'll see the sidewalk improvements. And then on the left, we're installing protected two-way cycle track. And on the right, we're installing a protected bike lane. Now, this one is on Bernardo Avenue looking north. It's next to the Cupertino Middle School we're looking at. So by the Cupertino Middle School entrance, close to the entrance, we're installing an RFB, which is a pedestrian beacon. And we're widening the sidewalk on the left side and the right side, and also we installed a bike lane with buffer. So funding, I mentioned that it was a sales tax for Measure B that was approved. So VTA received $1.167 million from Measure B, and the Santa Clara County Roads and Airport contributed $350,000 for a total of $1.5 million. And so what this does is, this does not take us all the way to construction. This is only enough for us to go into 35% design and also environmentally clear the project. So basically, we need more money to take it to the next step, which is the final design, and then go into construction and pay for construction. So because we have a 35% design, we were able to come up with some estimates based only on that 35% design. So the construction cost based on that 35% design is about $12 million. And what you do is usually you add a construction management because you have to have a team that manages the construction. Usually it's about 20% of the construction cost. So that's for about $2.4 million. And we also added a contingency amount of 20%, which is the $2.4 million. So we're looking at a total of $16.8 million for construction. I must note here, again, it's based off on 35% design. Things change as design progresses. So this estimate might change. And also, this does not involve any impact to right-of-way. So the schedule, I mentioned the Santa Clara County did the study report that was in 2019, and we received the 35% plans in February of this year. We distributed those plans and gave it to the stakeholders, the cities and the county, and they've given us back comments. And we are going to incorporate those comments, and we will be getting the 35% final next month. We've been doing public meetings such as this for the last couple of months. And environmental clearances, we are planning environmental clearance from starting. Well, it's actually we'll be doing starting next month to about February next year. The next three items, you see an asterisk next to it. Those are all based on future funds. If we get future funding, then we will, those dates are correct. So we will be, if we say we have them, then final plans will be expected in October of 2025. And we'll be going out bidding between January and June, and then construction will happen between June 2026 and December 2027. That's about 1.5 years of construction. Again, I mentioned we've done a lot of outreach meetings the last 2 months. That includes going to Los Altos, Complete Streets Commissions, and the city council. We've also gone to Cupertino BPAC and Sunnyvale BPAC and Sunnyvale City Council. We are going to VTA BPAC on June 12th. That wraps up my presentation. Questions?
Thank you very much. So we'll call for questions. Does anyone have questions?
Go back to that list of places that you have presented. Are y'all planning on presenting it for the Cupertino City Council?
I was told we don't have to.
Okay.
It's actually the Kennewick intersection, which is by Homestead Road. Do you have any detailed plans for that intersection?
No, we don't. Part of this, as I mentioned, what we're doing is we're following the final study that we got. That was not part of it. There was a VERBS grant that was given to the city of Sunnyvale, and they've made some, they've used that and made some improvement to that intersection.
Yeah, they did a lot of improvements on the Mary Avenue intersection, but actually not, I think they ran out of money for Kenwood, actually. And they didn't do much down there, but I think that intersection is worthy of some study just because that's the entrance to our parking lot. And I think the bike and the parking lot entrance and pedestrian is it's a high traffic area at some time of the day, I'll say that.
Correct. My understanding is, it's in a queue for the city of Southfield to study that, but when, I can't speak for that.
I have a question about funding. I will have to say, for the record, that I'm a little disappointed in the timeline. But you mentioned that the construction is contingent upon additional funding. What's your expectation on where that's gonna come from, or how you're gonna get it, or when it's gonna work?
We have been applying for funds,
Grant funds,
I'm sorry?
grant funds?
Yes. We did try twice and failed, but that doesn't stop us. We're still looking. That's why Lauren is here. I don't know if Lauren you want to say anything about that. Yeah, we are applying. We aggressively applying.
So we don't really know, because it depends on the application process.
Correct. Yes.
I
This is-
want to address the outreach meetings, just want to follow up on that point. We appreciate you doing the roadshow and checking to see if you need to go to Cupertino City Council meeting as well. I'm curious what the decision-making process will look like after you've gathered all this input from these different stakeholder groups. So you take them back to your agency. What's the decision process to determine what gets incorporated and what doesn't get incorporated? And I will also want to thank you for coming to the Los Altos City Council meeting. We've seen this before, and so it's helpful hearing it again. But I was curious about that because I know at our council meeting, we also gave feedback.
So we do take them down, we write them down, and the first thing we look at is the impacts to the project. How does it impact this, the cost of the project, and how it impact the schedule of the project? If it's something that can easily be incorporated, we do that. If it's something that will impact the schedule and impact the cost, that is something we'll come back to whoever that made that comment and say, we cannot do this because it will take us back, whatever it is, 6 months, 12 months, or it will cost us another $500,000. But yes, we will get back to the comment that we received and let you know.
Thank you. Stacy and then Graham.
Uh,
And then,
so maybe I can follow up on, Board Member Gold's comment. On the funding cycle, is there currently a grant that's pending? Is there anything in the hopper, or is it waiting for the next cycle of something coming available? Can you?
I'm gonna ask Lauren. She's my money lady.
So I work closely with our programming and grants department, and we have a deputy director of programming and grants who keeps tabs on all of the funding sources that are coming along. So there's a variety of different sources, both at the regional, the state, and the federal level. So for example, one of the ones that might be possible for this is a highway safety improvement program grant, which is every 10 years. They just projects. The applications would be due in September. So we kind of have a runway, an idea of certain grants that might be possible, but it really is, you know, we have to be really strategic about, I don't want to say strategic, but sometimes this project wouldn't score very well. And so we would make a decision not to go after that grant funding, we go after different grant sources. So talks a little bit about the process, but we are keeping track of it.
Graham,
I just wonder if it would be possible in the design, and I understand if you design something, it costs more on the construction side. But if you could possibly design the kind of intersection as it would be best, and then maybe not leave it for construction, but I think what that could allow us to do is if there is part of that design that falls on the school property, like on the school parking lot, we could maybe take on that part of the project ourselves and do it if we ever, if we have to redo that parking lot in the future due to solar constraints or other things, we might be able to take on that part and just know that there's part of this design that we have that will be ideal in the future, even if it's not funded. But we don't want to do something that's not in the best interest, long-term interest of the Olympic corridor either. We'd like to work in concert with it. And if we would design our own thing, I just don't know, it might not actually, in the end, work out to fit into your overall plan. I guess that's my thought.
Yeah, usually, again, I must let you know, when we apply for grants, we usually tell them what the scope is that we are applying for. So this was not part of that when we got the Measure B fund. So if you want to change the scope, we'll have to go back and let them know what has changed or what is changing.
And I'll tell you specifically, maybe this, I would say, we have bike parking racks that are in the interior of the school, and if we could possibly relocate them more near the intersection of that parking lot, maybe that would be very helpful, and that way bikes will not be traversing across that intersection as much or along the side. I mean, I was thinking, but I don't want to do that if that's actually not fit into your long-term planning. either.
And I think we have a meeting scheduled with the school district and the city to discuss all that and see what works for everybody.
Thank you.
Mayor and Renee.
Thank you. A few questions, but first of all, thank you very much for the presentation and thank you very much for the team's work in getting this far. You know, I said that at our city council meeting, but I want to repeat that. All of us here, we're frustrated. It's not going faster. We're grateful that, you know, we're this time at this point. When I attended the community meeting that the VTA had in Cupertino about a month, it wasn't the city council, it was just that general meeting. You had very large engineering drawings, printouts, conceptual designs, similar to what we saw, but it more or less went up and down the entire corridor. Is there some place where members of the public can go online to really see that detail?
Yes, we do have it on the website now.
Okay, so if a member of the public wanted to look at it, how do we find it?
They'll go to vta.org and project, and then they'll look for Homestead Safe Route to School project.
So members of the public can go to vta.org and search for Homestead.
Project, you go to project first and then search for Homestead Safe Route to School.
And is there a way for people then, after looking at those designs, to be able to give their opinions on them, suggestions?
Yes, on that page, there's an email that you can send your comments to.
The presentation, of course, it's very good, it's very informative, and I appreciate that, but I think an opportunity for future meetings is to bring those renderings with you again. I was a little disappointed you didn't have them at the council meeting. I was hoping we would have them here today. I know you're probably sick of us. We're gonna invite you back for a meeting with the general community in this neighborhood, which I know is there's a lot of concern and hope about what's gonna happen. And if you're able to bring those designs, that would be fantastic. I think it would really be useful. You mentioned a little bit about funding, and I understand the issues with scoring. I'm not happy about it, but I get it. In this room, you've got representatives from 3 agencies. And I have to believe that the city of Sunnyvale, the city of Cupertino would also want to do whatever we can do to support moving this forward. So, you know, and again, I realize the VTA is a very large jurisdiction, and there are certain ways that the board determine when one project gets prioritized over another. But we're anxious to get this going. We're really concerned about this because it affects the safety of our families, our students. And it's, you know, clearly it's something that needs to be addressed. It's what we've gotten as far as we've gotten. So whatever we can do to support your efforts to move these forward, you've got our attention and you've got our support. We know there's still a lot more input that has to happen. But we want to move this along as quickly as possible. So please reach out to us when we can help.
Thank you.
In terms of funding, and I think I've asked this before, but I didn't get. You were talking about the options of having a grant. And I think I asked this from a previous meeting at the Clement Center. It was like, I'm also working in the background, talking to the VTA Board of Directors, each of them saying this is an issue that we want to move up, because my understanding is they have projects that are red, yellow, green light per se, and green means to fully fund it. Is it possible if a majority of the VTA board members vote and have a discussion, and we'll have community members show up and move the project of Homestead Corridor from the yellow pot of projects to green?
Can't speak for the board.
Right, but is that we can help,
I think you can,
Right.
I think you guys push in and letting the board know,
Yeah.
I think, anything can help.
As an option.
Yeah,
Can I comment on the red, yellow, green
yeah.
thing? So I think what you're referring to is, aside from Measure B funding, BT doesn't generally have large pots of funding that we own and can distribute. I believe what you're talking about is the quarterly project programming report identifies the status of projects in terms of that have received money from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission or from the state. And our agency is responsible for making sure those projects are delivered on time. And so if it's red, it means they're in danger of not meeting their deadlines. If it's yellow or red means it's a big problem. Yellow, we're in danger. Green means they're progressing smoothly. So that is more of a status report.
Okay.
And in terms of shifting money from one project to another, typically, a lot of those are funded by the decision maker on that is actually not BTA. It's like the Metropolitan Transportation Commission or at the state level, it could be a different agency. So there's, it kind of depends on the color of money, whether the BTA board actually has the authority to move money from one project to another. So I think it would require probably a little bit more deeper conversation about different funding sources. That's beyond what I
And just to add to it, I just want everybody to know, nobody wants money on this project from us either, because one thing based on my experience when I work on other projects, when there's a gap or you stop the project for a while and you try to come back to it, the cost just balloons up, just goes up. And we have hired a designer that's here. They would like to just keep on going. If we don't get funding, they would have to just wait till funding is there. So yeah, we are trying all our best also on getting grants and trying to get this project going. And we really believe in this project too. So.
So any other questions from the group? I'm sure we're gonna have public comment on this. I have to guess, but I think so. So can you kind of hang out until the end because our public comment comes at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to update on Foothill Expressway multimodal study. I don't know who's doing that. Do you have anyone here from the state? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, forward up the presentation. I'm Chris Lamb. I'm the Deputy Director of Infrastructure for San Jose County Roads and Airports Department. I'm here. I'm going to talk to you about really three things. The center focus one is the Foothill Expressway feasibility study, but I want to give a little bit of background of how we got there, and then maybe a couple other updates of some other stuff you may have noticed going on Foothill Expressway, maybe even coming to this meeting. So the active transportation plan is a study that's currently still ongoing at the county. It's looking at all of the county roadways throughout the county. So that includes all 8 expressways and about 600 miles of unincorporated roads that are not located within city jurisdictions. We're hoping to adopt this plan in the fall here, but we're getting ready to hopefully by the end of this month or early next month release a public draft and work with all of the cities and just release it generally to the public to take a look at. This is an effort that's been going on for about 3 years. There was a slew of public meetings and community outreach back in 2021. And we're finally getting this thing wrapped up and over the last few hurdles. The recommendations that are coming out of that plan are to, because of speeds on the expressways, really the only safe way to provide pedestrian and bicycle access is to separate those facilities from the roadway itself. So the recommendation for all 8 expressways in the county is going to be to install class one pathways along along the expressway. So that being said, there's a lot of challenges in doing that, as you can imagine. You know, I know everyone here is probably fairly familiar with Toledo Expressway. I think in a lot of areas, you could pretty much eyeball where, where a 12-foot, wide path needs to go, and there's other spots that you might come across, you're gonna say, how are they gonna do that? And we don't know yet either. So that's what the feasibility study is in the first place. It's how do we know we have this grand plan of separating bikes and pedestrians from the roadway itself, giving this access all the way through the corridor, but how do we do it? And so we need to have somebody come in and look at it with a little bit of a finer tooth comb than this grand county-wide plan. And so through the feasibility measurement program, the county actually got a grant to do this feasibility study. And we're gonna look at, what do we have, what's nearby? How do we get people onto this pathway? How do we get them safely through the cities? So we're gonna be looking at, this is kind of a small map, but it just gives you an example of the corridor. So we're still in the process of scoping this out with our consultants. We don't actually have a consultant under contract yet, but we have one selected that we're currently scoping with. We're going to be looking at Toledo Expressway all the way from Cristo Rey, which is that first intersection just south of 280, all the way to the full extent of Toledo Expressway, and then also Cupertino Boulevard as it continues into Palo Alto and near Stanford. So that's the project limits. We're also going to take a look at everything about 1.5 miles on either side of the expressway, just to make sure that we understand how people are coming to the expressway. If they want to use that class 1 pathway, how are they going to get onto it and travel down there? So again, we're really in the strategy column here right now. Like I said, we're scoping it out. That'll include scoping out the public outreach. We expect that there's going to be a lot of interest in the project, so we're gonna have quite a few public meetings, community meetings. We'll be reaching out to Los Altos Hills, Cupertino. Happy to come back to this meeting. As we go along. The county's never shied away from attending public meetings and community meetings. I've been in others in this room right here in the past, so we're always happy to come back. We expect this project to really kind of kick off this fall in August and September, and it's going to take a little while. It's going to probably take about 2 years to get through and really kind of go through that community outreach, go through that detailed kind of planning and analysis. From there, that really gets us a conceptual design at that point. That's going to be what the end product of this planning effort is, or this feasibility study. But it's going to position the county, I think, in a good position to go after those grants that can help fund this project. Because as you can imagine, the Homestead Road Safe Routes to School project with a construction budget of $12 million for that stretch. We're talking 5-6 miles of, I think maybe 7 miles of expressway along, when combined between Full Expressway and Cupertino Boulevard. We expect a pretty hefty price tag to do that. So we'll, as part of the feasibility study, we'll look at ways to maybe break it up. Have some discrete projects that we can go apply for different types of grants for. So that's it for the feasibility study itself. Pretty short and sweet. There's not a whole lot to present on that one just yet. But a few other work efforts that are going on, as you, I think, all maybe noticed, construction going out on Foothill and Arboretum as we speak. So that's a project the county's working on to also improve pedestrian safety on the expressway. So that project's improving ADA access across Foothill Expressway. We're installing pedestrian sensors. So with the county's got a new standard. It's pretty cool in my mind that one, you can just wave your hand in front of the ped sensor and not have to touch it in the first place. That's a change that we got approved at the state level during COVID. The intersection, the ped sensors will also recognize when somebody's crossing the expressway, and so it'll recognize if that person hasn't made the cross, it'll grant them more time, so that it actually adjusts the timing in the signal to give them more time to cross in the first place. The signal itself is gonna change, so instead of showing that left and straight through movement, as you leave the Lucky still or Albertsons? Lucky's, yeah. And you leave the Lucky's right now, what you'd have to do is you're crossing, you're competing with somebody that might be turning left onto Fuller Expressway. So that's gonna be a fully separate movement now, so you'll have, then you get back that pedestrian, signal free and clear and not have to worry about a left turn movement, conflict with you. Another project that we're just getting ready to award is it's really a second phase of a big battery backup improvement project across all the county expressway traffic signals. So this will finish off improving all of our backup systems on county expressways. So all the county expressways, all the signals have battery backups right now, but as you can imagine, especially some of the real big signals, say like San Tomas and Lawrence Expressway in Santa Clara, that's a massive intersection. So those intersections draw a lot of power to run those signals, and the battery backups would only last 2 to 3 hours. So these ones that we're installing now and upgrading throughout the county are going to beef that up to the 6 to 8 hour range. And so still doesn't get us through some of the stuff that we experienced, this last winter and the last couple winters, but it is a big improvement. It gives the county and the local jurisdictions just more time to react and get whatever is needed in place to kind of weather the storm. And then last thing, we've heard it. I know your engineers have heard it, but Foothill and Magdalena is in pretty poor condition right now. We've known that's the case for a while now, and we've had it in our queue. We've got the plans ready to go. We're really just waiting for some construction capacity from our contractors to get out there. We've had a number of priorities that we're trying to balance and juggle. But we're expecting to get them out there this fall also to repave Foothill and Magdalena, that intersection that we've had. I know a lot of complaints on over the last 6 months or so. Yeah, so that's it for me. Again, Chris Lamb, San County Residents, happy to.
Thank you so much for joining us, Chris. We'll see if we have any questions or comments. Ava?
Thank you for being here. You mentioned, can you go over a list of people that you've met so far? Is it the same list that he put up for BTA? Is it different?
So on the feasibility study, we haven't even kicked that project off yet. So
Okay.
that's, we're at, pretty much ground zero. We're not even technically finished with the study that's telling us to do this project, but we know what the recommendations are, so we're going ahead and moving forward. But we haven't met with any outreach on this project yet. I would honestly not even gonna count this meeting as outreach on that project, because there's nothing I presented really on it. We'll want to come talk to all stakeholders once we have really something to share.
Okay, and then the next question, if you don't mind, is the funding. It seems like from what you're saying is that this particular project is already funded.
That's correct.
Any other questions, Lisa? And then the mayor?
Should I defer to my mayor?
No.
Thank you, Chris, for the presentation, and nice to see you. I know you're very familiar with the city and area. I asked the VTA representatives when they came to our council meeting as well, because for these street improvement, transportation, I understand they have a long timeline, and you're just kicking off this multimodal study, even though the funding is available. I'm curious if there are things we can do in the interim, right? Because you're looking at least 2 years out for us to really make any improvements. And we know, unfortunately, accidents are happening. Markings, signs, anything that we can do in the short term to address those immediate concerns. And I appreciate the work that has been done related to traffic signals, pedestrian crossings, but anything we can do now to really address some of the issues we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, for the county and our traffic engineers are always on the lookout for those types of improvements that we can make. You know, there's you know, our traffic engineers have done a pretty good job historically of kind of pushing the envelope and even getting you know, new treatments, you know, approved at the state level that maybe aren't commonplace, you know, in any jurisdiction. So there's definitely, we are always, you know, looking for those improvements to make our roads safer. And we're not shy about pushing the envelope on stuff. But we do need to make sure that what we do, you know, really does make it safer, does make it better, because, you know, those are always, as you know, a litigious environment when changes are made and someone points back to those changes as being now the cause, even if the intent was to make something better. So we exercise a lot of caution, but also trying to push the envelope.
You know, that's helpful, because we get these questions from our residents, right? Why aren't things being done? And of course, it feeds into the whole idea that government moves slowly, which we do. But I'm happy to hear that the county is always looking out for ways we can, in the short term, implement some improvements. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm glad that this is getting off the ground. You know, it's interesting, 4 years ago, I was one of the constituents, the people who would complain about Magdalene and Foothill. It's gone on a lot more than 6 months, believe me. And then 3.5 years ago, I was one of the people who started getting complaints from other people and passing them on to the city manager. And passing them on to you. Last year, the city received a grant to put in protected bike lanes on San Antonio. So that project, I know it's still in the initial phases. I don't know if we have a consultant here. The plan is to have protected bike lanes going from El Camino all the way up to Foothill. And I have no idea how they want to kind of combine, have San Antonio meet Foothill. I don't know how it could possibly be done safely. Maybe people go eat it, but whatever it is, it's in the works right now. And I wanted to bring that to your attention. It probably already is on your radar, but if not, I just request that you talk with the city manager, city staff, and vice versa, so that what we're doing and whatever you're doing makes sense. Because I think it'd be fantastic if we had protected, safe ways for cyclists to be able to get from one end of Foothill to the other end of Foothill, or down to Mountain View, down to San Antonio. I mean, these are two gigantic projects that I would imagine are going to have a lot of synergy. They're gonna have a lot of cross-pollination of cyclists. So please keep that on both your radars. Work together and play nice. Get something, get a project here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Chris, for your presentation. Appreciate having you here. Our next items are the executive reports from the three groups that are here, and I would like to ask you to keep them brief, hit the highlights, because in the interest of time, it's 4:45, and we want to make sure we have time for public comment. So with that, I'm going to ask who's going to do the City of Los Altos report. Okay?
City of Los Altos, probably the biggest thing in front of us right now is on Tuesday, our council meeting. The city council will debate and decide whether we want to move to district elections. If we do move to district elections, it would not be in this coming election, but it will be for elections there. Crossing guards has also been kind of a hot topic for us. I think everybody knows that the cost of crossing guards has gone up far more than I think anyone anticipated. And the city is going to fund them at least for another year. But I think the school district should anticipate that throughout the upcoming fiscal year, the city is going to be coming to you and looking for collaboration on some creative ideas to make sure that we can make sure that crossing guards are there to keep our kids safe in a way that makes financial sense for all of us. Safe routes to school is something that we're going to be focusing on in the next fiscal year. I think the city is planning on implementing at least 5 of the safe route to school plans that we have in our Complete Streets Master Plan. Those 5 are not determined yet, but I would think at least one, hopefully more, will be in the southern part of the city where your districts overlap the city limits. And finally, we have a new police chief coming on board. I think she is coming in next week, June 3rd. So Captain Kraus and Captain Ledoux, I'm held down the fort in the meantime, but that's what's exciting and new going on in Los Altos.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Moving on to Fremont, Graham.
So I'll just give you 4 quick things. So the first thing we'd like to announce, I think this is the Homestead crowd here largely. So we have a new principal at Homestead High School. Her name is Danae Nuremberg, and she's a longtime administrator and teacher in our district. She's been a science teacher and she's been the coordinator of assessment at the district office for the last 4 years, but she will start as principal on July 1. And Greg Giulio is our current principal. He will be moving to the director of HR starting July 1 also. We're also moving to trustee areas. Actually, we're a little further in the process. Our board approved it last month and the county commission also approved it. So I think that it's at the county Office of Voters Registration now, but for us, that will start in 2024 elections. So this coming election cycle. And then for construction at Homestead High School, Homestead is on cycle to replace the athletic fields. So they were installed in about the 2010 timeframe. So this summer, actually the day after graduation, we'll start on that project. And there's 3 big fields there and the track that need to be resurfaced. So that'll take about 6 months, but there will be fields open. We're doing one by one. So there will be fields open throughout the seasons in the fall. And then the last thing is the district is celebrating its 100-year anniversary. We had a great celebration at Fremont High School 2 weeks ago, but the Fremont High School and the district are both 100 years old.
All right, thank you, Graham. And moving on to Cupertino.
I will keep it very brief, but keeping in the theme of projects and needing money. We are looking at putting up a general obligation bond in November. So right now our board is, we have a meeting tomorrow. We'll look at determining the amount. But hopefully have that support. Our infrastructures are old. Debt paper only goes so far, and we really do have that need and trying to incorporate some of the technology needs into there as well. So it's our current bond has expired, and so without this, we won't be able to maintain some of those infrastructures. So really important for us. I'm happy to say we are not shifting into that trustee area at this time. We kind of sat back and watched what Sunnyvale and Fremont are, and we may have that conversation later on, but we will be still at large for this upcoming November.
Okay, thank you. And let's assess how many, raise your hand if you're planning to make public comment. Okay, so my request would be that you keep them pithy and don't repeat what's been said before you, and that would be really helpful. So I think you just get up and come forward as however you do it. Just come on down. Sure, that would be great. That would be great.
So, thanks very much for letting me speak. I'm Arlene New and I serve on the Sunnyvale Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. I'm speaking for myself today. And I am concerned about making it safe for students to bike to school as well as walk, but biking is always a bigger issue. I have had a lot of experience biking around. I travel primarily by bike and by walking. And I've also gone out to, I live near the Foothill Expressway to Homestead Road area. And so I have gone out to observe it multiple times and most recently twice. So I'm kind of familiar with student movement along this corridor. I want to first mention Kennewick Bike Route. Thanks very much for moving that forward, for all of you working together. And I strongly support that. Tonight, since we're in the Los Altos crowd, I want to talk more about the Foothill, the students coming from the Foothill area. I understand that funding is an issue and that scheduling would be impacted if we change the scope. But I think it is worth considering this because the current plan, which I have looked at the 35% draft, and although it makes good improvements, it doesn't really address the big problems at the Foothill Homestead Road intersection. So primarily the overall issue is that student cyclists are not given the priority or the protection they need to cross that intersection. They need to be separated in time, either in time or in space from the cars, and currently that's not the case. Students coming from Vineyard and students coming from Grant have these unprotected ways that they need to cross while cars are allowed to go through the intersection at the same time. So that, and students have to, and they don't have priority, the students don't. So they have to make a decision in their adolescent minds about, should I go now in between these two cars or should I not? And the cars are speeding by, like zipping along the speed lane to get from Foothill to Homestead. And it's just kind of dangerous. So, I do see lots of students going the wrong way down the road of Homestead Road. And the design does not address students biking the wrong way, starting from the intersection or even before the intersection, because the shared use path still ends where it ends, which is, I believe, at El Sereno. We need to extend the shared use path because students are going the wrong way in that area. So we need to extend it to and through the intersection.
Charlene, I'm gonna move you along because we have several people to speak.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I guess that's my primary thing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming. Next.
Yes, hi, my name is Guru Ramanathan. I'm the SRTS committee chair for Montclair Elementary. I'm a resident of South Los Altos, so this thing is, thank you for organizing this, and this is very relevant. I had a couple of points. So one is the scope of the project currently addresses a very important intersection. Of course, it's taken more than a decade of campaigning because of all the jurisdictions involved. So glad that VT is taking this on. But it falls short of addressing all the community that feeds into that important intersection, starting all the way at Foothill and St. Joseph and the entire Grand Frontage Road. All of this has a lot of challenges of kids navigating cars and traffic, especially traffic turning in from Foothill Expressway at Arboretum and the other intersections with 3 right turns. So the request is that the scope of the plan of this project be extended to cover those, because if it does address this important intersection, it would only go halfway and not, we'll have to wait probably another decade or two to get that part addressed, given that there are multiple jurisdictions involved. The other one is in the CMS area, the Dales pedestrian footbridge, which is not under the current scope, unfortunately was built in 1965. So the grade is too steep to allow for safe use of bicyclists. So any plan that is involved in addressing the sidewalk widening across from CMS, I'm hoping would take into account some point replacement of this pedestrian bridge so that it feeds into that. If the pedestrian bridge were replaced, it would actually have to extend a few blocks. So I would urge to include that in your plans as well. To Chris, I think the county roads, the work that's going on near Arboretum and the plans to include a class 1 bike lane is great. There are a lot of free right turns coming in from the side roads and looking at 1 mile over and coming out of Foothill Expressway. So you have a huge speed difference between Foothill Expressway and having our children navigate bike paths that keep cutting across these 3 right turns. I think any changes would strongly encourage us to eliminate these and actually have the traffic stop and not cut across these bike lanes at speed. And one other request is, this is a great forum. Montclair Elementary has a field that is in dire need of being addressed. And I'm hoping the city of Los Altos and the CUSD can work together to actually work up a plan to bring it up to a state where our students and teachers can enjoy it without sustaining injuries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Singer. I've been over a decade-long volunteer with the community for Safe Routes to School. Some of my questions are for Mr. Lamb here. First of all, for over a decade, even before we presented to Supervisors Committee, we made it very clear that we wanted the entire Grand Frontage Road raised as part of the scope. In addition, we also said it was urgent to have dual side, dual direction crossings, crosswalks across the expressway to bring Arboretum and Grant Road, St. Joseph into parity with the rest of Foothill Expressway along the entire length, but in particular within the city of Los Altos. We are the only 2 areas that do not have crossing on both sides of the road. The reason why this is such an issue is particularly in Arboretum, but also in, on the Grant St. Joseph crossing. You have kindergarten through fifth grade children on foot or on bike competing in the same crosswalk, going opposite directions from high school teenagers and middle school teenagers. This is extremely unsafe. It's very crowded. And I'm very curious to hear what studies have been done with this new technology of sensing who's still in the crosswalk when you've got people going in both directions in such heavy traffic. So I understand that that area is under construction right now, and it does not look like those concerns have been addressed. It looks like all they're doing is upgrading the existing infrastructure. They put in a brand new pole in 2 places on Arboretum, but we don't see that people can cross the street on the other side. And not only is that an issue, but that big sign that is put there on a big metal stand that says no pedestrian crossing, do not cross here. It blocks the view of the drivers entering and exiting the expressway on both sides. And that makes it very dangerous for our children, especially our younger ones, trying to get across the expressway and not get hit by a car who is trying to peer in between the spaces of that sign and its very wide stand. In particular, one of the areas along Grand Frontage that really needs to be addressed is at Newcastle. At Newcastle, in between Woodland Library and Arboretum, there is a stop sign coming from Newcastle onto Grand Frontage Road, but there are no stops or even yield signs on that frontage road. And so on multiple occasions now, I have seen people who have come across from Montclair, cross the expressway, turn right onto that curlicue that almost is a U-turn, which is a very sharp turn for a person on a bicycle. And then as they're trying to turn left after they've passed the library, they're trying to turn left and there's no stop sign there. So there's a car stopped at Newcastle who is allowing for the person to cross, turning left on their bicycle. But the last time I was here, I mean, this is my neighborhood. I almost hit a little child on a toddler bike who was trailing the adult because it was just moments that passed where if that parent had crossed and turned onto Newcastle before I saw the adult, if the adult had already completed the turn, the toddler was trailing behind a little bit. They don't have the same speed we have. And there was no stop sign. We've asked for a stop sign there. There needs to be a stop sign there.
Stephanie, I'm going to ask you to move it along. We've got a
Thank you.
couple more speakers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robin Gold and I am the mother of 3 boys. I live right across the street here. I have a high schooler at Homestead, a 7th grader at Coop, and a 5th and 4th grader at Montclair. So we kind of go in all directions on bikes almost every day. And I'm very concerned about their safety. Every morning sending them off, hoping that we don't get the dreaded call that something has happened. So I don't want to rehash everything that everybody else has said, but I'm glad that we are moving forward. I've been sitting in on conversations about this for my 10 years in the CUSD school district. So I'd love to see some actual improvements made. And all of the things that everybody has said about sending it all the way down to Grant Road all the way down to St. Joseph and the Newcastle intersection, the Arboretum intersection, the dual use pathway that just kind of dead ends into the middle of nowhere before Belleville. All of these are very concerning. And I would love for them all to be taken into account in this Homestead corridor improvement project.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, do we have any more?
My name is Kisa Martin. I'm a student at Homestead High School and I bike to school every day. And something I've noticed is when you're biking back, when school gets out at around 3 o'clock or if you don't have a 7 period earlier or later, depending, is on the corner of Mary and Homestead. Oftentimes there's so many kids waiting there for the bus stop that they're falling into the street, which stops bikers and they can also get hit by cars. And since near Cupertino Middle School, there are plans to extend the sidewalks, I was wondering, or like the corners as well, I was wondering if it would be possible to consider extending the corner as well or making it a little bigger, just because it's unsafe for the bikers and for the students waiting for the bus to all be standing there, and some of them do get pushed off into the street. Yeah, and just it'd be a lot better if we could expand on that.
Thank you very much. Next. And I think we'll stop with the person behind you if that's the bit of it. JC, are you wanting to speak?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so we have 3 more and then we'll be done. Okay.
Okay, I'm Charlene. I live down the street. I have 4 kids. My oldest went through CMS and Homestead. He was hit twice into school, once by a parent who went into the bike lane and hit him. The second time, it was a child going the wrong direction down the street and didn't know how to navigate around the high schoolers coming back, all on Homestead Road. My next child is in middle school. I don't let her bike. So, and then I have 2, one in Montclair and then another one actually down in Magdalena at Los Altos Christian. So I'll go for my list. So the biggest problem, so I've been driving these stretch for like 12 years, Monday through Friday. And my biggest problems are Fallen Leaf and Homestead, because they put in those really nice lights for the crosswalk. You can't see them because in the morning, the sun is shining. And so the cars are blinded. So they come up the hill, they can't see the lights. And the kids are going the wrong direction down Homestead because there's that bike area. So that whole section is like, it's a nightmare. The next area is so the overpass. So the reason the kids are going the wrong way on the overpass is because the entrance to CMS is at the gas station. And if you remember, the intersection at the freeway right there, just this year, a kid was hit in the crosswalk because he was doing the right thing, going down, crossing in the crosswalk, and a car hit him. I was there, I saw it. And the other thing is if they go on the right side, they're competing with all the cars going on the freeway. They're then have to cross the street there with all the cars trying to get onto Bernardo. Then they have to cross again to get to that bike path. So it's just unreasonable for them to try and navigate all of that to get into CMS. Then the third option is they can take that overpass, but that deposits them onto Helena and Bernardo because there's only 2 entrances to CMS for these bikers. And that is another mess because you have parents trying to drop in from 1, 2, 3, 4 different directions, all to the exact same spot. So you have bikers from 4 different directions, cars from 5 different directions. And so the bikers are really left with like no safe options for getting to CMS. I just have one more thing. I think that's good.
Thank you so much. Next.
Hi, my name is Catherine Carpenter, and we live on Farndon at Morton. My family moved to the neighborhood in 1985. My brother graduated Homestead in 93. I graduated in 98. My brother biked and was hit by a car on his way to school. My parents didn't let us walk or ride bikes. We had a school bus to elementary school, but we did carpools or they drove us. Or my brother walked up to Lucky and took a bus, taking him all the way around because that was safer. So you have an opportunity to correct literally decades of parents feeling unsafe sending their kids to school. I currently have a TK and a 5th grader at Montclair. And I don't know how I'm gonna send my new 6th grader to CMS next year. I'm terrified. I trust he will follow all the rules of the road, but I am certain drivers will not. I have become the parent I never wanted to be, exactly like my father, standing in front of school, scolding people for driving too fast, scolding people for parking in the way of bicyclists. I never thought it would happen, but I don't feel safe sending my kid to our CUSD schools. And my TKer, I admire the bravery of the other families, and I echo every comment that every person has made here about all the different intersections. I'm never gonna let her ride her bike to school. Are you kidding me? Not a chance. The other specific comment I would like to request is if we're talking about roads to fix and lanes to add, usually when we come home, we come from Montclair down St. Joseph onto Grant take a right on Morton and drive straight down Morton. And we have traffic from St. Simon's School, a lot of families who pick up their, park there, as well as lots of kids cycling up and down Morton. Bike lanes or better crosswalk markings at corners, I think would really improve safety. Just today, I had some kids, I know who they are, I'll call their parents, Montclair kids who were in Cub Scouts, veering into the middle of Morton because they were having a conversation and having a fun time. That is what kids do, I know it. But I wonder if they had a designated bike lane, would they actually be riding in a safer manner? Because it's a little hard to tell if you are indeed 3 feet away from the edge of the road when you're speeding along talking to your friend. So thank you all so much for this assembly and giving us all an opportunity to share our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy, you're at the end of the line.
So I'll start with the end of the line. It's the start of the line, Phyllis, was when my son was in 4th grade. And by the way, I'm Stacy Banerjee. I know all of you. And when my son was in 4th grade, this 2x2 meeting started. And of everyone sitting at the table, Phyllis, you were the person who was there. And I want to thank you for sticking with this. And I feel my son's in 11th grade now, and I'm speaking entirely as a parent and a resident. This has longevity now without us. And it's the job of everyone here to keep it going the next decade. And by the way, the decade before me was Winnie Avram. So this is kind of 2 decades in. It's not safe. This school year alone, I witnessed 4 bicycle collisions on Homestead Road when I'm taking my kid to school. 2 of those, I was the 911 caller. My son has witnessed these with me. I have the principal on speed dial, he knows all of them. It's not the fault of the kids. The most recent one I saw was actually an adult, but the kids were right next to him. Seconds could have been a kid versus an adult, but whoever it was, they broke their femur bone. They were younger than me, and they had a hip replacement the next day. Enough. Vision zero, like, it's not just fatalities, it's severe injuries too. So we have to do something. How do you do something? Mayor Weinberg, do you know why we're not getting grants? Please go look at the OBEG 3 scoring guidelines and look at how San Antonio Road was scored. It was the #1 Safe Routes to School project. And look at Homestead, how Homestead Road was scored, way down at the bottom of the stack. Because of the way the scoring criteria works. And that comes from MTC, and as an elected official, that's something an elected official can do something about. And staff needs that support for us to get money out of the federal government or the state government that flows through MTC on these projects. I will also remind, or tell the story, Phyllis will remind you. You remember the meeting that Patricia Steele came to? A mother of a Cupertino middle school student. Her daughter was hit on Grant Frontage Road, like right before Homestead Road, trying to go over to that pathway. You've heard today, and she's not, thank you on the team. We owe you everything and we appreciate it. You heard today, this plan doesn't address a safe entrance to that pathway. And I love what the county said about their plans for Foothill, is they're gonna look at the approaches. This project needs to address the approaches for Los Altos in partnership with the city, but it needs to be part of this project, so it's on the train to get done. Because otherwise, you're just setting up. It could be a fatality next time versus an injury, but the middle school kids have no way to cross over and get on that path. And this project doesn't provide them. And Patricia's daughter was knocked unconscious. Unconscious. And had other injuries and ended up at Stanford and didn't want to bike again. Then you'll have the police report. The town crier has an article. How many years later? We gotta get it done. We gotta get it done. because it's not about liability, and there is liability, but it is about safety of our children. And besides those 4 collisions I witnessed, my son was biking when there was the injury this school year at the Homestead in Bernardo. He biked through the one at Homestead and Arboretum, and exactly what the other parents say. I got text messages about these collisions before I heard from my son. So you are, as a parent sitting there, you know something's happened to someone. And I don't want it to be Orchid. I don't want it to be Orchid. I want it to be Orchid. I don't want it to be my kid either. And as a parent, you're scared. You're scared. Thank you. So let's do something about it. And could we get some green paint at the Foothill Arboretum intersections? Because a lot of students bike across there as well too, on their way to school. Thanks, everyone.
Just do that, green paint, sorry, just 5 seconds. There was lovely Dunn Road on St. Joseph, all green, all brand new. It looks beautiful, but recently there's been some new work going on from like Wi-Fi, I believe. So everything is being destroyed basically, and the children are trying to avoid with those big signs. So can we avoid work during drop-off and pickup times? Because that is just, it makes it even more dangerous. It's unbelievable. Yes, and it's all destroyed now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you all for participating and having a comment for us. I'm sure that our guests have lots of things to think about. And we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is scheduling and agenda items for the next meeting. So does anybody have any agenda items that they want back?
You can email about it. It's
Okay, we can email Sandy.
Yes.
All right, let Sandy know. And what, Sandy, what would you like us to do about scheduling? Like we usually do, just email everybody and bring the meetings together. Like, next year, one in the fall, one in the spring. Okay. Okay, so we'll just do it by email. Okay. Okay. Thank you all. And sorry for going over time, but I think the public moment to do anything. So.